60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Now, when Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari campaigned in 2015, he promised inter alia to fight corruption. And in keeping with that promise, while speaking in Paris, the capital of France, in November 2018, at a peace forum organized by the French government and some non-governmental organizations, and attended by over 70 world leaders. The president's speech was on illicit financial flows and corruption, the challenge of global governance. President Buhari says, among other things, that jail terms are no longer a deterrent for illicit financial flows. Sanctions are no longer sufficient to fight it, and more stringent actions should be taken, including a crackdown on safe havens and return of stolen assets to countries of origin. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Angela Ajetumobi. Okoi Obono Obla is the Senior Special Assistant to President Buhari on prosecution and chairs the Special Investigative Panel on recovery of public property. And he joins me on the program today. Thank you very much, Mr. Obla, for coming back on 60 Minutes with me.
You're welcome, Angela.
You know, we've had a recovery of public property Special Provisions Act for at least 40 years.
Yes.
Is it outdated, or why is it difficult to implement that law without setting up a special investigative panel that you chair?
I don't know what you mean by is the recovery of public property Special Provisions Act outdated. No law is outdated until that law is repealed.
Yes.
For instance, if you look at the corpus of laws of the Federation of Nigeria, we have some laws dating back to about 1900, and even some of those acts were, modeled after English legislations that date back to maybe 16th century, 17th century, 18th century. Yes. So no law is outdated until it is repealed. And as long as a law remains in the statute book, you must obey that law to the letter. Yes. If you go contrary to that law, then you have infringed on the provisions of that law, and you are liable to, arrest, investigation, and maybe imprisonment. So that law, I would say, is the first anti-corruption law. That law was used by the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, when he was military head of state in 1985 to fight corruption squarely. So that law came into force on the 31st of December 1983. You know that was the day the civilian government of President Shehu Shagari was toppled by the military. And the government that took over was headed by General Muhammadu Buhari. And he fought corruption squarely, to a standstill. Many, about over 200 politicians were sent to prison. And a lot of properties were seized from them. So that was the law he used. So because subsequent regimes after him did not have the political will, so that law was kept in the cooler. It was left in the, what would I call, the archives. Or museum, sort of. But when he came back in 2015, and that law has to be, exhumed from the archives, because we needed something like my panel, the Special Presidential Investigation Panel for Recovery of Public Property, which our main focus is on assets recovery, investigation of assets of public officers, and also private persons, because the law applies to private persons.
Not just public
officers. Not if you look at Section 2, it takes care of private persons, bankers, and also share companies, because most people who loot public funds, they use it to acquire assets, and they use fronts. Take these funds abroad and use share companies to conceal them. You never know, because they are the owners of the company.
Their
so
names
are not there. So we have the powers to investigate, share companies. We have the powers to investigate fronts. For instance, I may acquire property illegally in the name of my children, in the name of my cousins, in the name of my uncles, my aunties, my friends, my associates, my cronies. So we can go after them, not only the public officer. We can go after those people.
That brings me to the next point. When you say you're looking for information from the public in fighting corruption on assets, on public officers who have acquired assets that are beyond their earnings. Is it that the federal government doesn't know these things? You're waiting on the public to give you that kind of information?
My panel has been very proactive, because I can't just sit down here and wait for information, because Nigerians sometimes they don't want to bring the information. So what I do is I have a list of 400 present and past political office holders. So I request for their access forms from the Code of Conduct Bureau. The Code of Conduct Bureau was established by the Constitution and is vested with the power to have documentation or records of assets declared by office holders, both past and present. So I request for those forms. I examine them and then use my intelligence network to see whether or not what you have declared in the assets declaration form is true, or if you have more than what you have declared, or if you do not declare most of the things you have. Some of the public officers do not declare everything. Some of them, are directors of companies, which is not supposed to be the case, because if you look at Code of Conduct provisions of the Constitution, when you assume office, you are not required to do any other business except farming. You can be a farmer or you can have a farm, but not any other business. So if you do not declare that, I'm a director of so and so company, then you are falling foul of the provisions of the Code of Conduct in the Constitution. So that is what we do. When we do that, we will now verify. And then sometimes too, we also get reports. We get some whistleblowers. Some Nigerians are very patriotic. Like for instance, for the past 1 month, they have been coming with petitions concerning directors in the federal government bureaucracy, because that is where the corruption, the bigger corruption is, in the federal government bureaucracy. There are a lot of directors who are even richer than the politically exposed people. They are quiet, and you may see them having rickety cars. You may see them not flamboyantly dressed, but they have a lot of money. Let me give you an example. A director in the Federal Ministry of Works and Power, we seized 86 vehicles. I'm not talking about ordinary vehicles.
I thought that story wasn't true.
No, it is true. It is true. 86 exotic vehicles. Out of those 86 vehicles, 26 of them were Mercedes S-Class, armor-plated. Conservatively, the price of each of that vehicle is over 300 million naira. So times 300 times 26. And you see that those vehicles are running into billion or naira.
Is he being charged now?
Yes, we charge him. And that director, I did a request to the Accountant General of the Federation to give me his earnings from 2007 to 2015. And he gave me the record. His earning is just about 15 million naira. But the vehicles he has, the houses he has are running into hundreds of millions of naira. So where did he get the money from? So we charge him to court for refusal to declare his assets. Because what we do, when we are investigating you, the first stage of the investigation is we give you an assets declaration form. Declare your assets. Notwithstanding whether or not you have declared.
Giving you a fresh chance to
exactly,
declare now.
Exactly, because the panel is different from the Code of Conduct Tribunal. And this is the mistake some people make. They say your panel is a duplication because we have the Code of Conduct. Yeah. The Code of Conduct is different. The Code of Conduct Bureau is to keep records of public officers. They declare their assets and they keep record. And also they prosecute. But the prosecution does not end in imprisonment. If you are taken to the Code of Conduct Tribunal for violating the provisions of the Code of Conduct, the Constitution, then the tribunal can only seize your assets, can only declare you not fit to hold public office for 10 years, but cannot sentence you to a term of imprisonment. But our panel, when we charge you to court for the declaring of falsely declaring or refusal to declare. The terms of imprisonment is between 5 to 25 years. So you see the difference. And there is nothing wrong even assuming without conceding that the panel and the code of conduct are doing the same work. Yes. There is nothing wrong in duplication of anti-corruption agencies, because corruption is endemic. Corruption is pandemic. And the United Nations Convention on Corruption says, look, nations that have problems of corruption, they can set up multiplicities of agencies to fight corruption. I can give you the Brazilian model. In Brazil, you have more than 15 federal government agencies on corruption, because Brazil is a federal state like Nigeria. Yes. And all of them are fighting corruption. And I can tell you that the problem of corruption in Brazil has been addressed. Unlike Nigeria, you heard the former president, Lulu. Lulu was convicted. He went on appeal. The appeal was dismissed. And he wanted to contest. They took him to court that you cannot contest because you have had a conviction. And the Constitutional Court of Brazil heard that he cannot contest again. So he didn't contest. In Nigeria, when you charge a former president to court, everything will fall down. People will begin to say all manner of things because he's from South-South, because he's from North-East, because he's from North-Central, because he's from Nupe, he's Igbira, he's Igala, he's Ibibio, he's Calabar, he's Yako, he's Okoi, he's Ejagam, he's Yoruba, he's Hausa, he's Fulani, he's Kanuri. So that is it. Or because I want to go, I'm going for election. Yes, that is why they are coming after me. How can you say that because we are going into an election, you cannot be arrested? It is bad at dash. It's hogwash.
You described it as unfair for people to equate fighting corruption with catching people and putting them in prison. This was in response to accusations from members of the public that we haven't seen any real convictions of any big fish. You understand? And you said fighting corruption doesn't always to be ending in...
Yes, I say so because we have this misconception that you must be in prison. Yes, it is not all the time. Even in advanced countries, crime or criminal law is supposed to serve as a deterrence. So we also have non-official convictions, like seizing people's property. That is even the most important thing. So it is not only going to prison. Also, let me tell you, in the African jurisprudence, in African philosophy, social control, laughter is a form of social control. Shaming. In my village, if you are adjudged a thief, nobody will want to marry from your offsprings, from your children. Your family can suffer in the next 6-7 generations. Nobody want to go there. Your mom will say, look, that family, they are thieves. Because of just one mistake made by one person from that family, for generations, everybody from that bloodline will be condemned, will be called a thief. That's African jurisprudence, African philosophy. You are not sentenced to prison, but the mere fact that you have been adjudged guilty or you were caught with a goat or a cow is enough for people, anybody who descends from your bloodline, to be condemned, for his character to be, put in this state of disarray, for generations.
So what exactly has your panel recovered? I'm not talking of almost, I'm not talking of intended recoveries, I'm talking of actual physical recoveries.
We have recovered much, and I can mention the agencies we are recovering from. So what we do is, in some cases, we do interagency cooperation and partnership because we are in the same government. For instance, Nigerian Export-Import Bank is a bank that is set up by the federal government to facilitate export and import business.
That's Nexon.
Yes, to trigger economic development. But as usual, that bank was run down by the previous management from 1999 to 2015. It was run down. And that bank was on the blink of insolvency, and we were asked to assist. So we went and commenced our investigation, and we have recovered over 10 billion naira. We have recovered over $7 million US, and we are still in the process of recovering, for that bank. We also recover land from ASO Savings, because ASO Savings, was keeping money belonging to Nexim Bank, and they couldn't pay because they are having also financial crisis. So we say, okay, we will take the, whatever you have. So we have to seize, a very big parcel of land, in Abuja, belonging to ASO Savings. Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. We have recovered over 35 billion naira for Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Currently, as I'm talking. Nigerian Port Authority. We are recovering for Nigerian Port Authority. The $20 million was illegally placed in one of the banks, so for belonging to Nigerian Port Authority. And I can tell you, if President Buhari didn't come into office, that money would have been stolen. But we are recovering that money. And we are also recovering landed properties belonging to Nigerian Port Authority. That is one of the biggest public enterprise in Nigeria, and they have a lot of properties, even in UK, in the US, and in Nigeria, in Warri, in Sapele, in Calabar, in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, in Koko. NPA has a lot of property that has been taken away illegally. Landed property, houses. Presently, we are doing an investigation to get back those things. And those things were taken away during Obasanjo's government. A committee was set up to dispose of certain assets of Nigerian Port Authority. But they went beyond their terms of reference and started selling properties, houses belonging to Nigerian Port Authority. They were just shared and given to cronies of that government. So we are recovering them. Also, the $7 billion bailout fund. In 2006, during Obasanjo's government, a bailout was given to commercial banks by the Central Bank of Nigeria. It was not a dash, because you cannot dash public money to private companies. So when an eminent lawyer in this country, Femi Falana, SAN, he sent a petition to us saying that we should recover that money. So we wrote to Central Bank to tell us the status of this money. Who has paid back this money? Curiously and surprisingly, Central Bank replied that the board of Central Bank of Nigeria, under the chairmanship of Professor Chukwuma Surudu, passed a resolution dashing that money to all the commercial banks. The question is, do they have the power to dash Nigerian money, $7 billion, to banks that belong to private individuals? So we are on it. Yeah, we are going to recover that money for Nigeria. Nigerian Population Commission, we recovered over 30-something vehicles, SUVs, that were given to the previous commissioners, and who were supposed to return these vehicles after the expiration of their tenure. But because of the Nigerian factor, because the country was rotting to the core before Buhari took over, they took those vehicles home. So we have recovered those vehicles and returned them to National Population Commission. We have recovered also money from some directors in National Theatre. They just stole 24 million naira of public funds and shared it amongst themselves. We recovered all the money. So just to mention but a few.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. On my hot seat today, the chairman of the Special Investigative Panel on the Recovery of Public Property, Okoi, Obono, Obla. Now, Mr. Obla, I want to take you back to last year, 2017. You spoke of $700 million trapped in the United Arab Emirates, $430 million trapped in Switzerland, $400 million trapped in the United States, and $15 billion trapped in various unnamed countries. What is the current situation with those monies? Have we been able to recover all those monies? And do you have any new discoveries of monies stashed away?
Assets recovery is a very challenging exercise. It's very, stressful. It's very complex. It's very
straightforward.
Yeah, it's not straightforward. It's very intriguing. So it takes time. Because you can imagine, since 1999, we have been struggling to recover the Abacha loot.
But we've recovered some.
Yes, we have recovered some from Switzerland.
Yes.
Yes, it was recovered. And the federal government says, look, we are going to distribute this money to the poorest, the vulnerable, the dispossessed segment of the population. Yes, and I think they are currently on it. You know, the one in the United States is entangled in litigation.
Is that why you said that
because
some countries always act in such a way that we don't get the money back?
Yes, you know, it all has to do with the economic factor. The Western countries, they are enjoying. Well, because when I take money to America, and maybe I don't want anybody to know because it's an illicit money. So when I passed away, my family doesn't know that I have hundreds of millions in the United States or British Virgin Island or Cayman Island. These are all tax havens. You know, people take money to. They may not know. So the money is left in the bank, and the owners of the bank use the money to trade, to make profit. So that is it. So sometimes these monies, we will never know how much has been taken out of the country, and we will never be able to recover them. For instance, I just concluded an investigation of a politically exposed person who has over 20 offshore companies in British Virgin Island and Cayman Island. And in one remote island in the Pacific, very remote, a country of about 1,200 people. But it's an offshore island. It's a tax haven. Yes. And this man has been a public officer in the past 45 years. And he has millions of pounds stashed in these countries. So we did an investigation in collaboration with a sister agency. And we discovered that based on what we got from the Panama Papers, he was mentioned. So we now took one of the several Nigerians who were mentioned. We took one. We wanted to sample to find out if what was published in the Panama Papers
was real.
And we did an investigation with a sister agency. And the report was sent to my office 2 weeks ago. And it has been established that this man has a lot of over 20 offshore companies.
So, you know, when the president said in Paris about tax havens, that jail terms are no longer a deterrent, we should crack down on safe havens.
Yeah, those safe havens, maybe international law has to intervene. Because those tax havens are used as conduit pipes to take money from, you know, the developing countries like Nigeria. Yeah. So international law must come in, maybe to declare those tax havens illegal or whatever the international community can do to ensure that the concept of tax haven no longer exists. Because these people who take money there, they don't even pay tax. I am collaborating with the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria. I have sent a lot of, you know, title deeds of public officers who have properties in UK.
They must have corresponding tax payments here.
Sure. Federal Inland Revenue Service came out with what they call VSAIDs.
Yeah,
yes, those who don't pay tax come and tell us, oh, I have property in America or UK or in Nigeria.
And make good on your tax.
Exactly. So what I've been doing, when I investigate them, I will now send the documents to Federal Inland Revenue so that Federal Inland Revenue can go after them, because the Federal Inland Revenue is also an anti-corruption agency.
Just for the sake of the viewers watching.
Yes.
The law says if you have a house in the United Kingdom, you must also have evidence that you've paid taxes in your country before you can buy that house.
Exactly. So if you do not pay tax to Nigerian government for having a property in UK, the Federal Inland Revenue can go after you. And that is why I had to make a report to the Federal Inland Revenue of public officers who have properties outside the country, who are not paying corresponding tax. So I want to say that the Federal Inland Revenue is also an anti-corruption agency, and that is why we are working together. We have been collaborating. I've also made a list of over 10 public officers, you know, who have companies in these tax havens to the Federal Revenue Service, so that they can go after them and recover what truly belongs to the government, you know, in form of tax, appropriate tax.
I want us to talk about the bid I was reading about a bid to extradite the former petroleum minister, Diezani Alice Madueke, from the United Kingdom. I think I read that the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Magu, saying that Nigeria could do better than the United Kingdom in achieving conviction. And I thought to myself, this is Nigeria who couldn't convict former governor of Delta State, James Ibori.
Except if Diezani is investigated and it is found out that she broke the law in the UK.
Yes.
Otherwise, they can't try her there. But if the offenses was committed in Nigeria, then she has to come back. And so Nigeria and the United...
Does it make a difference if she's a British citizen, for instance?
No, it doesn't. There's no law that says if you are a British citizen and you commit crime in Nigeria, the Nigerian court doesn't have jurisdiction over you. The Nigerian court has jurisdiction over you.
But the British government can also prosecute her?
No, well, if she commits an offense in UK or that is contrary to the law in UK, for instance, Ibori was indulging in money laundering, which is an offense under UK law. And so that is why he was arraigned before a UK court and tried. So if Diezani, in the course of her work as Minister of Petroleum Resources, if she had committed a crime in UK, then the UK court can try her. But if the offense was committed in Nigeria, then the Nigerian court has to try her. So the fact that she holds a British passport does not, preclude the Nigerian court from trying her. Because we have an extradition treaty with the UK dating back to the 1950s. The late Chief of Bafemi Awolowo, who was the leader of the Action Group, who was the former premier of Western region of Nigeria, he was tried for treason. And during the investigation, or during the crisis that led to he being accused of committing treason, he left Nigeria to UK. So the Nigerian government then made a request that he should be repatriated, and he went to court in the UK, and the court ruled that he should be repatriated. He was repatriated back to Nigeria to face his trial. So we have a treaty. We also have treaty of extradition between us and the United States of America and several other countries. If we want to extradite her, what is required is for EFCC to activate that process, but through the office of the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. So extradition proceedings have to be filed in the Federal High Court against her for extradition. So if at the end of the day, if the Federal High Court is satisfied that there's evidence that she should be repatriated, they will make an order that she should be repatriated. And then the UK authorities are bound to obey that, comply with that order, and bring her back to Nigeria to face her trial.
Right. One of the sore points that critics of the Buhari administration talk about is how it appears as if once people move from their parties into the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, their sins are forgiven. And I can give you so many examples. Former Minister of Defense, Musili Obanikoro. We have former governor of Abia State, Ojikalu. And now the senator representing Imo West, Hope Uzodinma, who was a few days ago arrested at Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja, is currently the candidate of the APC. These are all people who have moved from the PDP to the APC.
Yes. It's not correct to say that their sins are forgiven. It's a false narrative. It is diversional. It is a red herring by the opposition to discredit the anti-corruption initiative of President Muhammadu Buhari's government. It is not true. Ojikalu, his sins have not been forgiven. As we are talking,
but he's campaigning for the president.
Yes,
people see that. And
no.
That's why he's playing.
Well, because he knows that we do not have any alternative. He knows. He says so. He has been very vociferous. The fact that he is standing trial, that shouldn't stop him from exercising his parliamentary right to say, okay, it is Buhari I'm going to support because President Buhari has done well. But the interesting thing is that this man who is vociferous, about Buhari, asking Nigerians to support Buhari, saying that there's no alternative to Buhari, the man is still facing his trial. As we are talking, the Federal High Court revoked his bail because he was not in court. And this is a man who joined APC as far back as 2015 or thereabout. You mentioned Obanikoro. Obanikoro case is still pending. And because I saw his name in the charges or in the documents or the information that was filed against Ayo Fayose.
Yes.
So that means maybe they intend to use him as a weakness. And it's allowed, you know, because he has returned his own share of the loot. And I know some of them who returned money, but they were not charged. Yes, because as I said, criminal law is not all about conviction. You can return what you have taken, and the state can decide to move on to forgive you or use you as a weakness against somebody that they want to, you know, prosecute. Because even in America, it is not everybody who is prosecuted. It's at the discretion of the state. You may have committed an offense, yes, and they may look at the evidence and say, okay, this man, let us use this man as a weakness rather than, you know, as, you know, a defendant. Yes. So it is allowed. So this narrative that the war against corruption is selective, it's not true. One of the persons that we charge before the Federal High Court is the first interim National Secretary of APC. And if you look at the Executive Order number 6, you have more than 10 people who are chieftains of APC in the schedule of the Executive Order number 6 of 2018. So what are they talking about? It is a false narrative. It is badadash, it is hogwash, it is nonsensical. Because the president said, I don't belong to anybody. And you have seen example of, oh, I don't belong to anybody. The president has been fair-minded, he has been just to everybody, and he has not, you know, intervened in any investigation being done by the police or the anti-corruption agencies. And that is why some people are not happy. Some people who used to be in APC left, because they were charged to court. They were charged before the Code of Conduct Tribunal because they were thinking that because they are, you know, leading lights of APC, they should not be charged to court or the president should intervene. And the president refused to intervene, and they got upset and left APC back to PDP.
Yes. Huh? How will this administration of Buhari shake off that perception, though, that only critics and opponents of the...
You cannot stop people from having perception. You cannot. You cannot legislate against perception. You know, you cannot stop people from having an opinion. It is a fundamental right. It is sacrosanct. It's inalienable that I should hold an opinion. Understand? But the most important thing is that opinion right, or is that perception correct? And I have given you numerous examples to show that that perception is wrong. It is by those who do not want to see anything good in this government. And for obvious reasons, they should have that perception. There's nothing you will do that will make them, you know, change their perception. Yeah. But what the government needs to do is to bring out facts, which I have given to you to illustrate that this government is not selective. This government is not one-sided. I have given you more than 10 members of APC who are facing trial. Yeah. And let me say, APC is just about 5 or 6 years old. APC was founded on the 31st of July 2013. APC came into power on the 29th of May 2015. But we had a party that was in power from 1999 to 2015. A party that made almost $960 billion from the sale of crude oil. And then we have nothing to show for. Roads were not done, infrastructures crumbled, there was no savings. So, and now you expect APC members who just took over government to be taken to court just because you want the anti-corruption war to be even-handed. Yes. I mean, what kind of logic is that? It's twisted logic.
I cannot have you here without talking about the Deputy Senate President,
yes,
Ike Koremadu. I mean, for posterity's sake at least. What is your response to the grave allegations that you possibly, along with others named, broke into the Enugu State Probate Registry, stole his will, replaced it with a photocopy containing imaginary property?
It's laughable. It's ridiculous. And I do not expect somebody of his standing to make that kind of nonsensical allegation. Okay, when we broke in, yes, where was he? Why didn't he report us to the police? He mentioned Justice Mozoruke. I don't know Justice Mozoruke. May his soul rest in peace. He has passed away. I don't know him. So that allegation is just diversionary. You know, that is what those of us who are helping this government, who are anti-corruption fighters, we face all those kind of allegations, character assassination, defamation, and smears campaign and all that. For people who do not have the maturity to accept their fate, why do you have to take it personal for what I'm doing for government? I didn't appoint myself. For goodness sake, I was appointed and given work to do. So whatever I do, it is the federal government of Nigeria. Why do you have to be personal? Why do you have to resort to attacking Obla, who is just an humble public servant, who has been given work to do for doing his work well, then you start to attack me? I cannot understand. I mean, it's very, very unfortunate. And that is the kind of elite you have in Nigeria. Just trying to divert attention. So that allegation, as I told you, is ill-motivated. It is baseless. But the question is, as I asked, when that offense, when that breaking in was allegedly committed, where were you? Why do you have to wait until when you were asked, why do you have so many assets? 200 properties in Nigeria, several properties in Dubai, several properties in UK, and several properties in America. Why do you have to wait until you are asked to explain how you acquired these properties? Then you begin to make allegations against people you perceive to be responsible or who are in charge of anti-corruption agencies investigating you. And it's very unfortunate.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back to my concluding moments now with the chairman of the Special Investigative Panel on Recovery of Public Property, Mr. Okoi Obono Obla. I want to stay on Hope Uzodima's case. If you are not to be perceived to be working for the current governor of Imo State, I mean, I can't even ask this question without laughing because it sounds funny to me. But if you are not to be perceived as working for Imo State Governor Rocha Sokorocha, why did you wait till now to arrest Hope Uzodima? After a protracted battle, he has emerged as the APC candidate. He has been a senator for the last 4 years at least. Are you saying that you didn't have access to him? After all, senators don't have immunity.
I don't have anything to do with the governor of Imo State. I don't even know him. I don't think he knows me. And I don't work for the Imo State government. I work for the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I work for President Muhammadu Buhari, who appointed me. I have not been to Owerri in 20 years' time. I have not been to Owerri. And I have not met Rochas Okorosha. I only know him by reputation. I read about him in the media and I watched him on telly. So it is not true that I'm working for him. It's insulting. It's those who want to insult the intelligence of Nigeria. They just think that every Nigeria has below intelligence.
Hidden agenda.
Yes, and they want to divert attention. They want to use red herrings. But the Nigerian elites, they are very good at that. And there is no time prescribed by law. You are a lawyer, you know. There is no time bar to criminal, investigations and trial. I can commit offense today in 2018, and then I may not be arrested, maybe in 40 years, 50 years time if I'm alive. You saw people who committed offense in Germany during the Second World War, and they ran to South America for several years, 60 years, 50 years, but they were eventually caught and charged to court. So there is no time for arrest of anybody or for the investigation of anybody who has committed an offense. And because elections are around the corner, does it mean that we should stop enforcing law in Nigeria? Should the government come to a halt? Or we should stop enforcing law? Or Nigeria should return to the land where might is right, where life is nasty, shortish, and brutish? Because elections are around the corner. This is nonsensical. We commenced this investigation in December 2017. I have a letter of invitation that was sent to Senator Hope Uzodima to the clerk of the National Assembly, because they always, the senators, members of the National Assembly, they always insist that if you are inviting a senator or a member of the House, you have to pass your invitation through the clerk of the Senate or the clerk of the House of Reps, who will not draw their attention. Because when the House is sitting, every senator or member has immunity.
While sitting?
While sitting, while in the precinct of the House.
Okay, so you can't go and wait for
exactly. You cannot go there and arrest, you know, or even serve him with a summons. So that is why, even if you take them to court and you want to serve them, you have to go to court and obtain leave and serve them. So he is aware that we are looking for him, and he has been evasive. Let me tell you, in March this year, we went to his house in Betama and pasted our access declaration form. And that is the first stage in our investigation when we want to investigate you. When we invite you and you come, we'll give you an access declaration form. So you feel, when you feel it, we will now verify what you have in what you declare. So if you now have properties that are in excess of what you earn, then we'll begin to ask you, how did you make this money? If you are a public officer, we'll say, well, which business are you doing to have this money? You are not supposed to do business except agriculture. So how do you come by this money? So we went there, pasted the access declaration form. He refused to fill that form. And the law says, if we serve you that form, within 30 days, you fail to declare your assets, you are guilty of an offense, and if you are tried in a court of law, you'll be sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. So we charge Hope Uzodinma, and the charge is, I have it on my desk there, is pending in the Federal High Court, Abuja. And since March, we have been looking for him to serve that papers on him, and also to invite him to come and answer to the allegation by Nigerian Post Authority that he was given $12 million to dredge the Calabar Channel. Calabar do not have access to the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. The access is the Calabar River, and the Calabar River is shallow. So in the Calabar port do not have traffic.
They're not making revenue.
Exactly, of big vessels. And it makes Lagos port to be congested because Calabar port is supposed to serve part of the south-south, yes, the southeast, yes, and north central, and not, eastern region of the country. And so if Calabar port is functioning well, there will be increase in economic tempo in Akwa Ibom, in Cross River, in Abia, Ebonyi, Enugu, Imo, and Benue State,
rather than using
Nasarawa. Exactly. So that contract was not done. So the MPA reported the matter to the presidency, and we were asked to investigate. So since 2017, we have been looking for him, and he said he knows he has been dodging. So we got intelligence. Throw me, I have to confess, we were in the same aircraft. Yes. I saw him. Yes, we're in the same aircraft on Sunday from Lagos, Air Peace. And I then called my director of operations in Abuja. I said, look, you told me that this man, you have not seen this man, that this man has refused to report to our panel.
Did you speak with him?
No. Maybe he doesn't know me, but I know him. So I now called my director of operations, Tahi Usman, Deputy Commissioner of Police. I said, look, you must pick this man. This man is coming into Abuja from the same flight with me from Lagos, Air Peace, and they came about 8:30 p.m. thereabout when the flight landed, and he was accosted by operatives of the panel.
You didn't get involved?
No, I didn't get involved. I'm the chairman. I shouldn't be, getting involved in operations. So I just saw them, and I just walked away. So that is it. So it is not because of election or because it's an APC candidate. Okay, if this man knows, if you know that I will be a candidate or I want to contest election, why wouldn't you just go and answer the call or the invitation of the panel? Exactly. So that is it. And now you begin to think that because you have been given a ticket of a political party, you have immunity from arrest or from investigation, badadash. So you can see that it is not politically motivated, and it is not because he is contesting election.
Two things that I want us to talk about. September 5, 2017, you wanted the federal government to take over empty houses in Abuja and sell them. Hold that in one hand. On the other hand, the federal government launched the property tracker on 12th of July this year, 2018, to expose...
It's not the federal government. An NGO did that application. I was invited to launch the app. If you go around Abuja,
yes,
you have a lot of property. massive property, and people do not live in those houses.
Does it mean they are abandoned?
Yes, there's no doubt the fact that these houses were built with laundered funds, illicit funds. Yes, and people cannot afford their price, the rents. So that is why these houses are just there, abandoned. So we should know who are the owners of these properties. Who are they? Are they businessmen? Are they foreign investors? Are they civil servants? If they are civil servants, they will know that they are corrupt. They have corruptly enriched themselves. They have contributed to the economic adversity of Nigeria. And then my panel can investigate them and take away that property. What the president was saying in Paris. You deny them the proceeds of looting because they use the loot to acquire property. You deny them. That is the most effective, sanction. And that is what the president was saying that jail is no longer a deterrence. But to take away this property from them. So those houses are there. Who are the owners? Where are they uninhabited? So we should know who are the owners. If they are public servants, then we'll investigate them to tell us where they got money to acquire, these properties.
Just for the record, you said earlier on that people who are in government cannot do private business.
Yes.
They can only do agriculture.
Sure.
Can members of the National Assembly do private business?
No.
Make money?
No. Members of the National Assembly are public officers. If you look at the Constitution, members of the National Assembly falls within the definition of public officers in the Constitution. That is why they even declare their assets when they assume office.
So the fact that the Constitution says they can sit for only 181 days, it doesn't mean that
no, it is not part-time. It is full-time. Yes. Even though the Constitution says they can always sit for 180 days a year, it is full-time. So if you are a member of the National Assembly, you have to face your work as a member of the National Assembly. You are not required to practice law if you are a lawyer. You cannot practice medicine if you are a doctor. You cannot practice quantity surveying if you are a quantity surveyor. You cannot practice accountancy if you are an accountant.
And you can't be sharing income from a company.
You cannot. Yes, you cannot.
That does the business.
You cannot. You can only be a shareholder in a company. But then when you are declaring your assets, you have to mention your shareholding. But you cannot be a director in a company. If you are a director, as soon as you assume office, you resign your directorship. But you can do farming. Otherwise, then you have to tell us where you make money from. So all of them who have companies, who are doing business, it is illegal. It is because certain institutions are not functioning properly. If those institutions are functioning properly, then they will not be doing that.
As a lawyer, you know that you can't put something on nothing. Specifically now, the House of Reps has indicted you on 3 grounds, especially concerning your West African school certificate. I want your reaction on record, to those asking you to resign.
That is rubbish. I left secondary school 30-something years ago, and I went to the university. I passed my LLB, my BL. It's a House of Representative, the University of Jos, that admitted me. Yes, and I did 4 years, and I graduated with a second class. I went to the law school. I practiced law for 20-something years before I was coming into government. So, and now you begin to talk about my O levels. So what is their business with my, O levels? It is just part of, what I've been talking about diversionary taxes. Because I was investigating some big barons in the National Assembly. So they quickly went and set up a kangaroo court. I mean, they don't have the powers to do that. They are not a law enforcement agency. They cannot investigate me. They can only do oversight functions to expose corruption, inefficiency, maladministration in the process of lawmaking. We even went to court because when I saw that I was their target, in my panel there are several other members. Why didn't they investigate their qualifications? They now focused on me because they saw that I am uncompromising. So I have to leave. And then went and did a kangaroo investigation. I didn't appear because I told them you do not have jurisdiction. I went to the Federal High Court. Despite that, they still went ahead and did what they did. But the matter is in the Federal High Court. Nigerians should support those of us who are anti-corruption fighters. It's so painful when some people begin to buy that narrative. We know these people are sponsored. So call a dog a bad name. Because they don't want me, because they know I'm uncompromising. So I'm courageous, So these are all the hazards of being in government, and you are uncompromising, you are courageous. They want to push you out, by doing all this, organizing smear campaigns on social media. And the media It's very unfortunate. It's very painful when you are serving the country and then your name is being dragged into the mud. So it is rubbish. You know that you are a lawyer, that what they have done is illegal. So we are in court. The court will decide.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okoi Obono Obla, for having us in your office in the Federal Capital Territory. I know that elections are coming, and if we thought the 2015 elections were vicious, it looks like this one is going to be even more vicious. Change was the message of Mr. President in 2015. Has the president delivered the change that Nigerians hoped for, at least as far as the war on corruption is concerned?
Yes, I will give the president 80%. 80 is A plus. What the president has done is unprecedented in the history of Nigeria, even in Africa. Look at the recoveries. Look at the number of people undergoing investigations, the number of people facing trial. Even judges were not spared. It's unprecedented, and it takes the heart of a lion to do that. In a country like Nigeria, fighting corruption is a difficult thing. It's hard, even in Africa. There's a Kenyan professor who was the head of an anti-corruption agencies, one of the anti-corruption agencies in Kenya, who, he wrote a book, very interesting book on, fighting corruption, how corruption will fight back. Even the former finance minister, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, he wrote a book how corruption fought back until the extent that our mother was kidnapped. Corruption fights back in so many ramifications, so many fronts, like what you just pointed out. My battle with the National Assembly, with House of Representatives, just for doing the right thing. They started fighting me, they started using the media to smear my name. So what President Buhari has done is unprecedented, because corruption is very formidable. Corruption fights back in so many forms, and this government, we are seeing corruption fighting back, trying to destabilize this government by sponsoring an insurgency, by sponsoring farmers' herdsmen crisis, by fomenting religious crisis, by instigating militants in the Niger Delta. So we are seeing corruption fighting back President Buhari in so many ways, and so it takes the heart of a lion to soldier on, and we have soldiered on with a lot of courage, and we have been very resolute despite all the attacks and all the diversionary tactics, insult and so forth and so on. So it is not easy. Taking all that into account, he has done well. And he has, I will score him an A.
Thank you, Mr. Obono Obla, for having us in your office.
Thank you, Angela. It's nice to talk to you once again.